I'm a bit nervous. Okay. Hi, my name is Tochi Hannah. I am a curator of experiences. By profession, I am an architectural designer. And right now, my life is... Ooh. Right now, my life is moving in a direction with intention. I love New York. I'm definitely a city person. Like I love big cities and things moving fast and like I it takes a lot to make me uncomfortable. It takes a lot to make me feel anxious to the point where I feel uncomfortable. And I'm very easily motivated by things around me, and New York moves at a pace that keeps me motivated. I understand what people mean when they say like New York can feel like concrete jungly, but I also feel like, I don't know if anyone's been to Lagos. I feel like New York is just Lagos with an American accent. Like things, I have no idea what's gonna happen when I walk out the door today. Like anything can happen, and that is kind of fun. Like I don't know what the day's gonna bring, and I thrive off routine. So I've had to learn how to like allow my routine to adapt to whatever change may come, which is also fun because within my routine there's like spontaneity. And I love New York. So I actually just moved jobs, and in the job that I previously had in that firm, I focused on airports and public schools in New York. And so I was working on JFK for a while, and then predominantly public schools in New York City. And then I did that for 3.5 years, and I just moved to a job where I'm working on high-end residential, and I love it. I think a lot of the time when I tell people that I used to work on airports and public schools, they think that's really cool. But the reality is that when you're dealing with airports, your client is not a person, it's like a group of people. So in New York, your client is the airport, JFK, it's Port Authority, it's whoever's leasing out the terminal, and it's just a lot of people wanting a lot of hands in the pot. And then with public schools are very much so designed like prisons. They're kind of actually exactly the same. The only difference is that you have doors instead of bars. But if you look at the template of a prison and the template of a public school in New York City, there's not really much change. Speaking specifically from the context of New York public schools, because those are the only public schools I've worked on. But I do think they're part of the same system, especially when you think of like, what is it they call it? Like the school to prison pipeline. I think everything is intertwined when it's part of the same system. I think there are some private schools that may not have that same like design, but when it comes to public spaces, yeah. So after a while, like I don't feel like I'm designing anything, because you're not designing anything when it comes to public schools. There's a template and you just kind of have to work around that template, and that became exhausting after a while. I didn't think I was making much of a difference. So when I got this opportunity to work on high-end residential, I was really excited because I like building connections with people, and when you're working on someone's home, it's such an intimate experience you're having with them, and they're trusting you, which is also why I love photography, because people are trusting you to curate an experience for them, and it's a learning experience. There are some things that I don't know about architecture, but through a certain client and the conversations we'll have, I'll learn about that, and I'll become a better architect, and they'll become better at knowing what it is that they want in their spaces. So it's a great give and take. So I'm also a college professor, and the course that I teach, I curated from scratch, and it's called The Ethics of Architecture and Design. The Ethics in Architecture and Design. And the reason why I curated this class is because I feel like, at least when I was in school, I did, my undergraduate was in visual arts and my master's was in architecture, and at no point was I ever asked about, or was there ever really a focus on how the space made someone feel? Like a lot of the time they focused on what it looked like, how it contributed to the overall environment, how people may interact with it, but never really like, when someone walks into the space, how do you want them to feel? And like, what are your intentions when designing this space? And I think that for me, I wanted to, when I was approached with this opportunity to teach a course on architecture, I could have just taught a studio class, like, you know, the basics, but I want people to approach design with a bit more intention, because at the end of the day, you want to make money, and sometimes I think we can lose sight of what the vision is when there's money involved, because you have to like pay bills and survive. And so I want this class to have people at the back of their mind, even if they're doing something for the sake of capitalism, they're always asking like, what is my intention about this? What is my why? How do I want people to feel? Okay, the first song that just came to mind was Motown Philly back again. Yeah, or like, oh my gosh, Coolio, Warren G, Tweet. That was in my house for a lot. Like Tweet, rent free. UK Garage. My dad loves UK Garage. Yeah. B.I.G. Yeah. Which is funny because we listen to a lot of American music and my parents are not American, so. I was born in London, and then when I was 7, we moved to Saudi Arabia. And then when I was 11, we moved to Bahrain, which is a tiny island off the coast of Saudi Arabia. And then at 15, I moved to Lagos. And then at 18, I came to New York for college. Yeah. Saudi Arabia. Incredible country. Like, I mean, my formative years from 7 to 15, I was in the Middle East. So, like, I'm heavily influenced by that experience, especially being, like, in a country that doesn't speak any of like the Roman languages. Like Arabic is not like English or French or Spanish. Like it's not any of those. It's such a beautiful language. It's so romantic, and to grow up around that, like even just so my parents, I was raised Roman Catholic, but my parents were very big on like when in Rome, we integrate ourselves into Rome and we learn about what the Romans are doing. So they put us in like Arabic speaking schools, and I would be like one of 3 Christians amongst 500 Muslims, and Nigeria is 51% Muslim, so like it wasn't new to me, but to read Arabic and understand the Quran and just see how the overlaps of the Quran and the Bible and the Torah and just how all of these religions stemmed from like similar spaces, and to see how they were designed. Beautiful. To be immersed into a culture that was so different from my own for such a significant period of my life, I would not trade that for the world. I would move back to Saudi. Well, because I grew up in a lot of places, or I don't know if that's a lot of places. I grew up in spaces where I was different. My dad was really big on like, your differences make you unique, dare to be different, don't follow the crowd, swim against the current. Like that's his motto. And so a lot of the time where like, for example, like my name is Tochi, and in Igbo Tochi means praise God. But when I would go to a new school, kids are horrible. So like my name was Tushi, it was Yoshi, it was Sushi, it was Touch Me, it was all of the things that just aren't my name. And my second name is Hannah. So whenever I'd go to a new school and they'd ask me what's your name, I'd be like, oh, my name's Hannah. My mom would be like, her name's Tochi. Like, we're not doing that. Also, but you named me Hannah, so why can't I call myself Hannah? But whatever. different story for a different day. But I get it. Like, my parents wanted me to be proud of like the things that made me unique, and because they really ingrained that into me, I think it just shows up in other areas of my life, and to the point where, you know, there are some elements of myself that they don't agree with. But y'all taught me to be proud of who I am in all my ways, and that's all of me. Yeah. So, I think it was just ingrained.
Always, just from the jump.
Yeah.
Parenting.
Yeah. I was always taught to be, like, confident and be proud of who you are, be proud of where you're from. People aren't always going to like you. People aren't always going to agree with you, but that doesn't make you any less of a great person or, you know, that type of language. I mean, I'm Nigerian, and I'm very queer, like not only in my sexuality, but in just the way I think and the way I navigate life and move through the world. And for a long period of time, I felt guilty for not being like normal or fitting within a box or like looking a certain way or liking certain things. And it took my chosen family, like people who aligned with me because they loved me, because it was a choice they were making, not because they had to make me like, to remind me like, Tochi, just like my dad used to tell me, like, your differences they make you unique, they make you special, like this is great, this is awesome. And my experience of being raised in a Nigerian household is a lot of people care about what other people think, and they will move accordingly. So if I like purple, but my neighbor will make fun of me if I wear purple, then I'll wear blue. And for me, I would still choose to wear purple because I like purple. Okay, well, at the moment, I'm working on this passion project. It means so much to me. It's called Chi, and I call it a journey because I think it's a reflection of my life. And hold on. I need to just, there's a specific language I want to use here. 1 second. Okay. Chi is a continuous wellness journey centering self-care and self-discovery through intentionally curated experiences that allow you to meet your best selves. And what that really means, because honestly, what does that mean? We're figuring it out as we go. But it started off because I was doing these YouTube videos, and I just feel like everyone does this thing where they act like they have life figured out, and then I am comparing myself to people who are acting like they have life figured out, and from my perspective, they have life figured out, but they don't. And so this YouTube channel was me being like, yo, I don't have this life thing figured out. I don't know what I'm doing. Some days I'm really sad, don't know why. Some days I'm really happy, don't know why. But I'm just gonna archive this process of living so that I can look back and see how I've grown over time. And then I started getting messages like, oh, Tochi, your videos have helped me do this, and your videos have helped me get through this. And then I started doing word of the day because, like, I'm not... Wait, what? Can I talk about anything on this? Okay. I'm not, like, a depressed person. I'm pretty chipper, but, like, I'm also not afraid of my own death. And that really... It can be a bit morbid sometimes because I like really start thinking like, what is my purpose here? What am I doing? What am I doing all of this for?
You said not afraid of you.
I'm not afraid of my own death, no. Granted, assuming I have control over it, if you see where I'm going. And it can get really morbid really quick. Just bear with me. Mm-hmm. And so I started to think like, what am I doing? Like I felt like I was working towards nothing, and it just kept feeling like I was just trying to survive. Like I'm just making money for the next day. So I had to start centering things that made me feel good. And when I centered like my own joy and things that made me feel good and what made me feel like I was becoming a better version of myself, I felt like, you know, not that I'm not afraid of my own death anymore, but I'm not too tied to like, if this happens, I'd be okay with it. Now I feel like I have something to live for. And so I would do these words of the day every day, just as like motivation for myself. Like, okay, today, Toch, you know, you might be having a bad day, but it's okay, because tomorrow's a new day, and you can try again tomorrow. And so I would put that on my Instagram, and I did that consistently for about 4 years. I mean, I still do it. So I've been doing this since like 2017, and I decided I want to turn it into a deck of cards, because I wanted to curate a space for people where they could interact with these decks of cards every day or however often they feel like is aligned with them, just to give them little reminders, like motivational tidbits through the day. And so Chi came from my word of the day and my YouTube channel and wanting to give people like a physical thing that they could interact with. And then that turned into me doing accountability sessions where people will come to me with a goal. I would break their goals down and then hold them accountable into those little bite-sized like pieces that I broke their goal down into. And it's because I think when you're working every day on what will bring you money, sometimes your passions really get pushed to the side. And that's what I realized was making me really sad. Like I wasn't focusing on my passion. And so when people come to me with their goal, I have to make sure it's like a passion of theirs so that we can intertwine the goal of them reaching whatever pinnacle they want to reach with their passion within their like 9 to 5. So you still have your 9 to 5, but if your dream is of being a chef, then every day we'll work on you creating a meal, or maybe you'll research on like a new skill or something. And I've had 100% success rate. I've had 4 sessions. Each session has a different amount of people, but there's never been an end of a session where people didn't come out better than how they came in. And at the end of the day, I'm just lighting a fire under their ass, because people, the passion is there. Capitalism just kind of dampens like that fire, and I'm just there to remind you that you have the power to do whatever you want, however you want. You just need to believe that you can, and that is where Chi is at today. Yeah. Well, I thrive on routine, and like really. And so if my routine is off even by like a little bit, I just like shut down. And so a lot of the time my shutdown is mental. So I just have to have conversations with myself. Like, Tochi, you're human. You're not a robot. It's fine. Things happen. You'll be good. So a lot of the self-soothing I give myself on the tough days is not even like physical actions. It's just reminders that, oh my God, I have a whole tomorrow where I can try this again. I'll learn from what I did today, and I'll figure it out the next day. Also therapy. Shout out to my therapist. You don't actually want to die. You just feel constrained. And you have permission to expand past the limitations that society tells you you have to fit within. If I had known that much earlier, I think I wouldn't have felt like I was drowning for so long. But I had to figure that out myself. Glad I figured it out, because now I feel like I'm swimming, and I know that when I need to take a break, I can just lie on my back and face the sun and breathe, versus lie on my face and drown. Yeah. You're allowed to face the sun. That's so nice.